Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, and welcome to, I think it's Be Nice to Your Lawyer Day. Yes, it is. Love Your Lawyer Day. Oh, God. Not that many people do, but this is... Well, that's all need to be said. Love Your Lawyer Day, whether you knew it or not. And this was a... So who made this Love a Lawyer Day? Who would? This was a resolution unanimously passed by the American Bar Association. Yeah. The preamble to it reads... Whereas lawyers have consistently been the target of verbal bashing, derogatory portrayals, and literature is rife with lawyer bashing dated back hundreds of years. Yeah, well, all right. Let me lawyer name. All right, before we get into heavy stuff, or maybe not. It's also yesterday was the day that the Toy Hall of Fame announced its inductees for this year. Not that we even knew there was a Toy Hall of Fame, but there is, and it's in some strange place. Where is it? Something like somewhere in New York. I forget where. Some little town in New York. Or not even little, maybe like Buffalo or something. Can't remember. But there it is. It is there. And up for induction were a number of favorites, none of which I can find. Dang it. Did I say hello? Hello. It's one of those days, I guess. Total confusion. Damn it. Oh, here it is. I remember. Okay, so it's in Rochester, New York. And there were 12 finalists. This is all announced. There's lobbying that goes on, but it's hush-hush, sort of like the Nobel Peace Prize process. And the wiffle ball was up. The scooter was up. The top. I mean, how retro is that? The top. If the top hasn't made it into the Hall of Fame yet, I don't see how's it ever going to get in. The coloring book is not in yet? Why, that's absurd. It was up. It was a finalist this year. The coloring book, the scooter, the top. Jeez. Okay, and Battleship, the board game. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And all of the ones I have just mentioned, none of them made it. They all lost yet again. Only 3 toys were allowed in. This is rougher than getting into like the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, or it's tough, obviously. 3 toys got in. 1, a generic toy, such as a coloring book. The puppet made its way in this year. All right, okay. The Super Soaker Squirt Gun? Are you kidding me? That got in before the top or a coloring book? Well, whatever. And the third one in this year is Twister. Jeez. Anyway, they joined the likes of who? Barbie, Mr. Potato Head, Silly Putty, Lionel Electric Trains, and get this, a stick. One of the first ones in was a stick. Because the idea was a stick is like a bat, but a stick representing all things that kids go banging with or whatever. The stick made it in, and I'm assuming the ball is in there. The ball didn't get in until 2009. The stick got in long before it. And you know what else is in? And I love this. The cardboard box. I love that they're aware of, so the cardboard box is sticking the ball. Those are all in. And now the puppet but the top's still out, the coloring book's still out. And to put a Super Soaker in before those basic toys that were toys for millennia is crazy. That's crazy. Also, there's a historical fact here. When Twister first was introduced in the 60s, the Sears Roebuck catalog refused to carry it because it said, it's like selling sex in a box. And because Sears Roebuck, which was still a big to do then, didn't carry it, sales were sluggish, to say the least. Milton Bradley was set to discontinue Twister, but then Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show played Twister with one of the Gabor sisters. And the rest is history. I mean, sales just took off the next day. Turns out that Johnny Carson had something to do with also getting the Super Soaker in. It was something that wasn't all that well known. He got hold of one, and he blasted Ed McMahon with it on The Tonight Show in 1989, and then everybody wanted one. Also, the Super Soaker, it turns out, is the invention of a NASA aerospace engineer who was trying out a prototype cooling device in his bathtub. There you go. And the rest is history. Jon Stewart apparently has been actively trying to get bubble wrap in. Rubik's Cube made it last year. So just so you know, I didn't know. I did not know. You read enough newspapers and you find stuff out, like it's Love Your Lawyer Day. And the puppet finally made it in. Okay. Hearkening back to yesterday's show, I ended it on with the reading of the lyrics of a song that I guess our men would have been in the Air Force, because it was jet fighter pilots who were right. Yeah. That our men in the Air Force sing, apparently, thus creating a horrifically uncomfortable and abusive environment for any female who is also in our service. And the lyrics were put into the complaint, or whatever that's called. I ain't no lawyer. The complaint that, where you say, it's these 5 soldiers are suing the Department of Defense for sexual harassment, for failure to do anything. And in their examples, which they have to give of this one was subjected to this, that one was subjected to that, they put in the lyrics of this song, which was sung to Candyman. And the chorus was not Candyman, it was the S&M man. And the lyrics are so horrific that when I first read them, I couldn't even, they are the very definition of obscenity. Obscenity. The level of horrific imaginative violence to women in the song, is absolutely mind-boggling. So yesterday I said, I'm going to say words I don't ever say because they're in the song, and I'm going to do that. I think I warned people enough. I obviously didn't warn one of you enough because I did get an email, which I will read to you. After the first few phrases of the Candyman lyrics, I had to turn off the show. As the mother of 2 daughters, I just couldn't listen to the end. I have never taken you to task before, but this time I just have to protest. Was it really necessary to end the show this way? Was it really necessary to give the author of this terrible song any more exposure? For the rest of the day, I'll be thinking about it, likely unable to get the song out of my mind. I expect this from Howard Stern, but not from you. Okay. First of all, the author of the terrible song, no author is known, no name was mentioned, so there was no exposure for anybody. And the reason I did it, you think I can get it out of my head? Celine was just saying she can't get it out of her head. But I didn't do it for prurient interest. I didn't do it as entertainment of any kind. I did it as a tough educational effort. If that song represents the reality that our sisters and daughters, you mentioned your daughters, sisters and daughters would face, and in fact are facing, when they take an oath to defend their country, and then nothing is done to alleviate that, ameliorate it, or flat out get the guys who are subjecting their fellow soldiers to this unspeakable obscenity to cease and desist immediately or get the hell out. I just think it's important for us to know. Knowledge is important, even if it's hard to swallow. There's no one who could have listened to those lyrics and not been sickened. And anyone who did listen and was not sickened, anyone who listened and maybe laughed, well, it says something about you. I can't even imagine. The level of violence in that song is beyond my ability to even articulate without reading those lyrics again, which I will not. If a federal court that hears this case has to deal with those lyrics, well, then we, the people of the United States, can deal with them too. Knowledge is power. Without knowing, how do you know the reality that that afflicts the women in our military. And don't we want to be aware? Don't we want to be a part of perhaps a sustained effort to push our government and the Pentagon and the White House and the Congress to stop this kind of behavior? My God, if you look at the things people get in trouble for in the Army, for not saluting an officer, for, I don't know, I can't imagine people up on court-martial for this or that is nothing in particular to my eye, to my sensibility. But this, that these men that we honor as heroes all the time, that they are subjecting females in their units to this level of vile harassment is beyond me. And so when you hear about people suing the government, when you hear or see the movie, the documentary about violence to women and to some male soldiers as well, believe me, in the military, the level of sexual harassment that is simply not being acknowledged by the military, and as if you read the rest of the complaint, when women seek to come forward and ask officers to please do something, they often end up the ones being let go. So it's really something. And I'm sorry. I thought I said I'm going to read something that's like beyond belief, inexplicable, blah, blah, blah. But it was exactly the horrific nature of those lyrics that I felt compelled me to pass on to as many people as I could the level of emotional violence. Didn't talk at all about the real physical violence, but the emotional violence that women in our military have to face. And I'll tell you, if you haven't yet seen it, Netflix or on demand, please look at that Academy Award nominated film, The Invisible War. It will blow your mind. The attorney who figures in these cases, I am hoping will be my guest next week. She will be in Pittsburgh. Okay, I just had to say that I did write to the emailer and said, I'm sorry you were offended, but I just really felt I had to. It took some doing for me to do it. I don't say those words. And I swear a blue streak. But there are the words that demean women. I just can't stomach them. So anyway, there was that. So I just want to talk a little bit about the George H.W. Bush biography that's coming out that's causing such a stir because Bush 41 just flat out lets us know how he feels about Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld not serving his son well. But in the end, he says about his son, he was the president. He was responsible. The buck stops there. So for a father who so clearly has never criticized his son publicly to let this book come out, I'm a little astonished by it. And in fact, John Meacham, who wrote the book, and knowing it was about to be published, wondered if the elder Bush would still want to include some of the things that he had included in his conversations with Meacham over a, I think, 6 to 7 year period. He's been talking to Meacham. And so Meacham apparently, not too long ago, went back to H.W. to show him a transcript of his remarks and ask if he wanted to clarify them, and H.W. said, no, that's what I said. We have a caller. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Lynn?
Yes.
Hi, just to note, it's not why I called, but your show is mislabeled today. You have Lynn Cullen live 11/6/14 rather than 11/6/15. No big deal, I just want to pass it on to you.
Wait. I didn't understand what you said. What'd you say?
When I put the cursor over your screen, it says Lynn Cullen live 11/6/14.
But that's not what the show is.
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, it's not why I called, though.
Oh, okay.
Did you read Ron Kessler's account of Hillary Clinton's treatment of the civil service?
No.
Oh. Any civil service agent who's assigned to her looks as a form of punishment.
Oh, Secret Service.
Yes.
They don't like being guarding her.
No.
You know, I'll tell you, if I was in a position like that, I would make so nice with the guys who were there to throw their bodies in front of, a bullet for me.
Well, she doesn't, though.
Doesn't she?
She doesn't. One man said he was in her detail for years, and she never said thank you.
Aye.
She yelled at Secret Service agents when they were driving her when they went over bumps. Apparently, she doesn't have a high regard for military either. The military aides that were assigned to her were told not to wear their uniforms, but to wear business suits.
Well, so the source of these complaints is who's Kessler?
Well, he interviewed Secret Service agents who told him, their names are named, many of them, their names are named as service agents who gave him the information.
Okay.
Some of them aren't, but a number of them are.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I just have a little... The thing is when we get around to political season, efforts are made to smear candidates based on insider information like this. So, I take this kind of stuff with a bit of a grain of salt. I think the Secret Service did not like the Clintons in general, if I'm remembering correctly. And there was a lot of whispering going on about them. I'm not so sure we'll hear nice stuff about Michelle Obama. Same kind of thing.
No. Ron Kessler says that Michelle and her husband treat the civil service very well.
All right. Okay. All right. Well.
But if you do a Google search on that, there's articles going back to 2008 about how poorly she treated her services. Who guarded her.
Okay. All right. Well, but that tells me something, too. So this is an article from 2008 when she was running the first time.
Well, Ron Kessler wrote a book, and then he has a book out with this information in. But there have been articles in the years past about this also.
Okay. What's the title of his book? It's obviously a Hate Hillary book, though.
That I don't know.
I'm willing to bet you.
If you do a Google search on Ronald Kessler, I'm sure it'll come up.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. And actually, it's funny because when you called, and you wouldn't necessarily know this because of the delay, I was talking about this book that's coming out about George H.W. Bush. And in it, W's father got really close with Bill Clinton after Clinton's presidency. He just loves Bill Clinton. And In the book, though, he says, I don't feel close to Hillary at all, though, but I do to Bill. And I can't read their relationship even today. So that's George H.W. Bush saying, I don't get it. I really love him. I don't feel so good about her, and I can't figure out what he's doing with her. I think that's George H.W. Bush saying he doesn't like her much either. Well, I guess she's hard to warm up to, although people I know who have met her say she is so delightful on one-on-one and in smaller groups, doesn't come across well in a larger group. But this is one complicated human being, obviously.
Well, Mr. Kessler says she has a public persona and she has a private persona, and they're just not the same.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all information you proffered. I mean, every public figure has a public persona and a private persona, and they don't necessarily dovetail. I have said many times my private persona is actually of a depressed person in a fetal position who rarely speaks. Oh, I mean my private. Yeah, that's why I said my private. Have I said that? I mean, I am. I'm not. I'm still loud. When I do speak, it's apparently too loud and too vociferous. But otherwise, I just sort of, go back into my little shell. So anyway, I thought it was interesting that H.W. does say he loves Bill, can't warm up. He's too much a gentleman to say, I can't stand that woman. He doesn't like her. But listen to this. This is what I wanted to share. Are you seeing the books? Are they gotcha books? Are they? You can't quite tell. Okay. I vaguely remember the name. But see, if the book first came out in 2008 and was clearly intended not to help Hillary Clinton's candidacy, and then we all of a sudden get it coming back out in 2000, 15, heading into 16. My guess is that this book was written for the purpose of, first of all, cashing in on people's interest in potential presidential folks, but also of maybe influencing their choice and their votes. I mean, these kinds of gotcha books get ready for a whole bunch of them, I suspect. All right, we got Beth writing, Lynn, I, like everyone else, cannot get the lyrics of that song out of my head. You know what I've done, though? I don't quite have them in my head, even though I've obviously not only read them to you, I read them before I read them to you, so that's 2 for me. But there's just certain images. There's certain images that are so beyond horror. I can't. Okay, I love your show, and I love Howard Stern's show, and I can say he, being the father of 3 daughters, would be disgusted by the lyrics of that song. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Howard Stern would never have shared those lyrics unless he was doing it for the same reason I did it. It wouldn't be prurient or isn't this hardy har funny. No. May I suggest to the upset listener, call your congressman and show that anger and disgust to him. Right. Furthermore, here is a list of all those senators who sit on the Armed Services Committee. As women, let's call these men and say, enough! Sadly, there are only 4 women out of 27 on this important committee. Anybody from around here on that committee? No. Okay, the Republicans are Inhofe, God help us, Jeff Sessions, Roger Wicker, Kelly Ayotte, Deb Fisher, Tom Cotton, Mike Rounds. Who are these people? Joni Ernst. So there's 3 women on the Republican end. Mike Lee, Dan Sullivan, Lindsey Graham, and Ted friggin' Cruz. Democrats are Bill Nelson and, well, here's a few women. Yeah, Claire McCaskill, Jean Shaheen, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Kirsten Gillibrand. Oh, well, no, so there's quite a few women. What'd you say? There are only 4 women? No, they're not. Beth, there's more. There's, what were there? There were 3 or 4 Republican women, and there are already now 3 Democrats. There's about 7 on the committee. Richard Blumenthal, Joe Donnelly, Mazie Hironey, that's another woman, and she's from Hawaii. Tim Kaine, Angus King, the Independent, and Martin Heinrich of New Mexico. Yeah, it's... Yeah. Take the information and don't jump on me, because it is something that exists, is real, and is tolerated. That's what has to stop. It is tolerated. I can't imagine there's a man or woman on that committee who, upon seeing those lyrics, would not react as we have. I don't know anybody who would react any differently. And that's why I always push back. That's one of the reasons I always push back when people call any person in uniform a hero. Because that kind of blanket approach is absurd. There are terrible people wearing our uniform. Terrible people. And there are great people. But you can't just flat out call them all heroes. And speaking of our heroes, the Post-Gazette did go and find out how much money the Steelers got from the Department of Defense, taxpayer dollars, to act like they were being patriotic. Pittsburgh the Steelers in 2014 got $27,000. The Pirates last year got $18,000. Now that pales beside somebody like the Atlanta Falcons, who in the 3 years up to 2015 got close to $900,000 for putting on these phony displays of patriotism. It will stop. See, now that they jump on right away and stop. And here is what the report from the Senate committee said about it. Given the immense sacrifices made by our service members, it seems more appropriate that any organization with a genuine interest in honoring them and deriving public credit as a result should do so at its own expense and not at that of the American taxpayer. Yeah. And the Pirates have responded by saying that most of what they do is unfunded. So I get the impression that a lot of what I was complaining about, that's all the Pirates. They weren't getting paid to have people sing God Bless America. Although that's all over the I think that comes down from the from Major League Baseball, because it happens in all the parks. But he said certain military appreciation events hosted by the Pirates, including every Thursday home game, those are just something that they do. They ain't getting paid for it. And it's outside of any marketing partnership with anybody. So people are scrambling to explain themselves. George H.W. Bush, though, back to him, because in this book, this is so, wow, you talk about, people being human. This is a human being. So while he's president, the dad, And remember, he goes in to knock Saddam Hussein out of Yemen. Remember that? Saddam Hussein invades Yemen. And we went in to knock him back. And we did it very cleanly, very quickly. And then rather than chase him back to Baghdad, we stopped. Because we'd done what the war's purpose had been, to get Saddam back in his own borders. Dick Cheney, who I think was in the cabinet then, was appalled. And couldn't wait to get back and do what he had always wanted to do, which was get Saddam Hussein. Anyway, so after that war, was that Desert Storm, right? Desert Storm. George H.W.'s poll numbers were sky high. The U.S. had actually sent its military in to do a job, had done it, and then had gone home. Now, that hadn't happened in a gazillion years. And we were, most of us, happy. I supported Desert Storm. But it says here that he went into a sort of state of despondency after it. He fell into an emotional despondency in 1991 after the war. And he was really thinking, I don't want another term. I don't want to run again. I want to go home. And he wrote this in his diary. I'm not in a good frame of mind now. My whole point is, I really don't care. And that's bad. That's bad. But I'll get in there and try. And so he ran again, but he didn't really want the job. He knew he was going to lose. He went in a negative state. He had a total sense he would lose. His party didn't. Everybody thought, oh, he's the hero, he's well loved, he's everything. But he wrote in his diary this. In March of 91, he was on Air Force One returning from a big rally with the troops. And he wrote this. The common wisdom today is that I'll win in a runaway. But I don't believe that. I think it's going to be all about the economy. I think I can talk proudly about what happened in Desert Storm, but I think it will be overshadowed in the fall of 92 by other issues. He was right on the money. He also thinks he wasn't a great president. And he says things like, I feel like in terms of history, I'll be like an asterisk, he said. I'm lost between the glory of Reagan, monuments everywhere, trumpets, the great hero, and the trials and tribulations of my sons. Whoa! It's interesting stuff. And he really thought, he said, what if the historians in the future look at my presidency and, quote, what if they just find an empty deck of cards? That's the dad. Would that the son had that sense of humility and introspection. Would that the son. He says he feels trapped between the glory that was Reagan and the fuck up that was his kid. Not say that exactly, but that's and he'll just be an asterisk. Okay, what we got here? Chuck on Bush. I'm fascinated by this book, and particularly his scathing critique of Iron-Ass Cheney and Rumsfeld. Oh, yeah. Rumsfeld, I heard this. Rumsfeld fired off a tweet or a text message immediately yesterday when these quotes about him being a jerk and an Iron-Ass came out. And he despicably, I thought, said something to the effect that, well, he's getting up in years. Like, his mind ain't working really well. I'm sorry, Chuck, back to you. Rumsfeld is explaining this away as the ramblings of an old man. And John McCain, then responding to Rumsfeld's remarks, said they were very regrettable. Well, you see, the Republicans, they don't like, there's a lot of ugliness in that party and a lot of finger pointing and score settling. And, oh my God, I love, Chuck writes, how this book has ignited Republican infighting. I can't wait to read it. P.S. I had a very difficult time getting through that S&M song yesterday, too. And yes, you did warn us, but I don't think you could have given us any warning that would have prepared us for that filth. That's true. I don't know what I could have said, but our guys in uniform are singing that. Isn't that amazing? Chris writes about military flyovers. NASCAR does a big salute to veterans and a big flyover before each race. Usually there are people parachuting in with American flags. Yeah, they do that in Green Bay, too. God. NASCAR also has a huge Tea Party base. Well, I go to a game to see a game. I don't go to see these, stupid... it's like religion. My religious beliefs are held in my heart. They are a personal thing, and they are expressed in a personal way or in my religious practice, however slim it may be. I don't like religion pushed in my face, and I sure as hell don't like my feelings of love of country, and I do have strong feelings of love for this country. I do. I don't like them manipulated in these tawdry ways, which we now find out are totally tawdry and that they dirty money involved in them. Oh, Margie tells us that senator from Hawaii, who's a female, was in the military as well. Okay, well, I know Gillibrand who's on the committee, has been very out there in trying to do something and hasn't been able to do much. She had a much tougher bill that she was trying to get through that committee a year or so ago. It didn't make it. To deal with sexual assault. She was trying to she was trying to say that you cannot expect to get a handle on the horror of sexual assault in the military if the military is the one trying itself. You've got to get it out of military courts. If there's a rape, an assault of anybody on that military base, then it needs to go to a civil court. Well, the military will have none of that. As you know, the military has its own court system, its own judicial system. If the military can, sentence somebody to death in their own system, can put somebody in jail forever in their own system. And their system is not a lot like ours in many, many ways. But if a woman gets assaulted in the military and she informs her commander, First of all, it might be the commander who's assaulted her. I mean, it's way too incestuous a situation for the military to handle itself. How have the mighty fallen? You see this U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel, that huge building that now, of course, is UPMC. U.S. Steel, the mighty U.S. Steel, the largest skyscraper in Pittsburgh skyline. It was built by them. It was built for them. They are so paltry now that now they don't even have the money to build a 5-story office building where the arena once stood. They pulled out. Ain't happening. Wow. How have the mighty fallen? Iraq-Contra, Robert writes, let's not forget that Papa Doc Bush was the only member of the Reagan gang who didn't know about the Iran-Contra deal. I didn't remember that. He wasn't in on it? Yet he was vice president, and he was a former head of the CIA. He was pulling the strings on Reagan behind the curtain. What? I'm not quite clear what you're telling me here. You say he wasn't in on the Iran-Contra deal, then how was he pulling the strings? I'm confused. Okay. There was a piece in, the Faldy-Roll part of the New York Times the other day. Style, fashion, all this kind of crap. And there's a picture of a bunch of models I'm looking at. And I guess it's the style season where all these fashion houses parade out their ludicrous looking fashions for the next year. And I'm looking at a lot of these people and the models all have cornrows. Cornrows. And they're almost all white. And this, a woman, I'm assuming black, reporter for the New York Times, wrote a pretty big piece about it. And she starts out quite plainly. There's no way to sugarcoat this. I always experience a flash of annoyance when I see white girls wearing cornrows. Maybe it's because the hairstyle is being marketed as new and trendy, or it could be that I, as a black woman, know it's not a style white girls wore when I was growing up, and that they often mocked me for wearing it. So she goes into this. How dare white people wear cornrows? And then she talks about the crap she took growing up in an East Texas town. Another culture critic and writer in New York, black woman, said this: cornrows was our way to connect back to a lost land. We knew where they came from, and they couldn't steal or beat it out of us. It's black, and they know it. Cornrows originated in Africa. They were predominantly worn by women. And this woman who said that says, I remember my grandmother telling me stories as she braided my hair about how her mother used to do the same, and her mother before her, to protect their hair while out in the fields picking cotton. It's ours, this hairdo. And here's another woman. Black hairstyles aren't just about hair. Black hair has a history and a culture behind it. White women, say Miley Cyrus, thinking she can go on stage and just ignore that context and wear it, why, it's really the hair version of wearing blackface. Here's another. Our hair is a sacred thing. You can either accept that or not. You can't just take it from us and not deal with us. Okay. Here's where, I'm sorry, I get it, I understand, and here's where I say enough. You know, I mean, come on. I get it. But this is one of those pick your battle things? Come on. You can't own a hairstyle. I'm sorry. Just like the music, the African music that came over and the jazz that African music came out. The music that blacks created has been obviously taken by white folks. I guess everything gets taken. Instead of looking at it as an appropriation of something that doesn't belong, you could look at it as, wow, look at this. Look at what we are giving the world. Take it as a source of pride. Although I know, I mean, in terms of money, a lot of people got screwed as this stuff got expropriated. But look at it as a source of pride that your culture is what people want. Hello, caller.
I know it's the third time, but I had to call.
I'm sure. You're allowed. What do you think?
Yes. As you were starting to get into, you were reading. I called while you were reading.
Okay, well, what I just said, because you didn't hear it, is I said, this is one of those things, pick your battles, and this ain't one that makes any sense, really, because why not be proud that so much of your culture, including your hair, which people used to make fun of, is now considered to be cool. Your music, your hair, your dance, your this, your that, your literature, your art.
How old are these women who wrote this?
I don't know.
I was around in the 70s, when black people started wearing the natural, the
afros, right?
And
right.
people started wearing afros.
That
was
is true.
Name that played 10 that had cornrows way back when?
I remember when all the all the Jews who had that kind of hair. Jewfros. Jews were wearing anyone was.
Yeah.
Black culture has always been this unbelievable generator of everything cultural in our country. Everything.
Yeah, and the difference now than it was back then, with say she lived in the 50s or something and they were doing this, is that black people are making a bunch of money off of their culture.
Now.
They can't claim that, hey, we're not making any money off our culture. These guys are making money off our culture. They're making a ton of money off, especially with the hip-hop. Jay-Z is a billionaire.
Yeah, it didn't used to be. That's true. I mean, so much was taken and blacks didn't get the money from it. But, man, they can get the money from it now. Yeah.
Yeah, I said, oh, for goodness sake.
Isn't that, it is silly, right?
I used to sit there, my big sisters used to cornrow my big fro. Believe it or not, I had an afro that was huge.
Well, how long would that take?
A long time.
I mean, hours.
And, my older sisters did it, which gave them practice, for their own hair and all that stuff. And they called and said, "You're so tender-headed." They said they're yanking my hair. And I'm sitting there going, crying to get my hair. Well, you should comb it more, Clarence.
You know what? I once watched on the bus a woman finishing up her daughter's hair, and I could not believe how intricate.
It's intricate. It's almost like weaving or...
It is. It is weaving. How intricate and how much work goes into... I mean, just a few strands being used, and then the meticulous divisions that go on. It is an art form.
Yeah. And I would bet my last dollar that Molly Cyrus had her hair done by her black hairstylist.
Yes. I would too.
And she's probably, making six figures to make Molly's hair look good.
When my son had really, 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 really long hair, which he does again,
yeah,
I once said, look, I just can't handle you just letting it go. Blah, blah, blah. I said, how about we go down? We went to a black barber shop, and I asked, so how much would it cost to do, some cornrows? And when I heard the cost of it, I plotzed.
Takes a long time.
I left.
Yeah, it takes a
Jeez.
really...
And then how long does it stay in? I mean, you can keep it for how long?
Oh, a very long time, weeks. It starts
I think
to,
months.
as your hair starts to grow,
Yeah.
you almost have to tighten it back up, what I mean?
Yeah,
and all
at
that
the
kind
top
of
you'd
stuff.
have
But
to tighten
I kept
it.
mine in for weeks.
Yeah.
Anything to... So, when my sisters would try to kill me. And here's another thought I had about that cultural thing. If you want that, stop straightening your hair. Stop putting it into ponytails.
That's right. But that's what I was thinking. Wait a minute. If that's not right, then how come I'm remembering, what's her name? The big beehive hairdos of all those girl groups and the Supremes and stuff. Their hair, those aren't African American. That's not African hair they were doing.
People, America, it's what makes America cool.
I know.
People jack everybody else's culture all the time.
I know. And that's why we're so wonderful.
Yeah.
That's American exceptionalism. This everybody, I like that, and you take it. Nobody owns a hairstyle. Sorry.
What is uniquely Jewish in America that I don't know about? That you say, besides, Broadway musicals.
and half of the most popular Christmas carols and songs.
Yeah,
right.
That whole, to me, it's almost like that was, the way musicals are done. I was old before I realized, all these guys, who did the standards were Jewish.
They were all Jews. Right. Yeah, no, I'm glad. It was good to hear from you on this because, when I first read it, I'm starting desperately, because I want to do the right thing, thinking, is there a point here? And then I thought, I understand what they're saying, but no, you can't. You can't own a hairdo.
Yeah, this goes back to that old, the whole PC movement.
Yeah.
You can't say this, you can't.
That's
wear
right.
that.
It's where PC gets out of control.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clarence.
Okay. Now I'm going to start the argument on Facebook.
Okay, go for it.
You know what? They still not arguing with that white people are dying left and right, and nobody cares.
They don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll try this one. It's a black subject. They usually get.
This one will go. Have fun.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Ray is on cornrows. There are statues that show ancient Celts. I used to say Celts, but it is Celts. Celts with their hair braided tight in rows. We are all walking around searching for offenses like pigs rooting for truffles. Well put. It's true. Enough. Guys, enough. We've really been taught to take offense, to be victimized, to be angry. It's something, isn't it? And I've trafficked in. So it's so weird, I love to hate the Wall Street Journal's section on Friday. It's called Mansion. It is so vile. It is, and there's a Pittsburgh professor in it. And I wonder how the hell they even found out about this. It says, Michael Ramsey, he's a geologist who has a place on the north side. And it said here in Mansion that he scoured 4 states to find the perfect rock. It had to be a big rock. It had to be a what do they call those? A metamorphic rock. And he finally found one, and it got schlepped over to the north side. It weighs 1,330 pounds. What did he want that rock for? It had to be schlepped up to a 2nd-story courtyard he had built, and it is the centerpiece of his Japanese Zen garden. Now, it turns out that he is a planetary geologist, and he teaches at Pitt, and he travels around the world studying volcanoes, and he bought what had been the Allegheny County Juvenile Court on the north side. I can't place that. It was vacant for 5 years. There were vines growing through the windows. It was 5,000 square feet, unbelievably dilapidated 2-story office building. He said the realtor kept trying to steer him to Squirrel Hill for a Victorian house. He called it a grandma house. He bought it anyway and renovated it, and they show his house, and it's lovely. And there's this big friggin' rock sitting on the second side. The rock doesn't look like anything to me, but there it is. The guy from... and they take a slap at Pittsburgh in this, too, on top of it. So you get into Mansion in Pittsburgh, and you still get Pittsburgh trashed. Here's what it says. He came from Arizona State University in 2000, accepting the professorship at the University of Pittsburgh, a city near where his father had grown up, and had warned him against ever residing. My dad was always talking about how he got out of Pittsburgh. So there's the old Pittsburgh just, Gotta find out what they're paying the professors at Pitt. When professors at Pitt start showing up in Mansion, then you gotta ask yourself, is that why the tuition's going up all the time? I don't know. Well, that's it for me, guys, and we've made it to yet another weekend, and I hope we all enjoy it. I truly do, and I'll see you Monday. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.